Welcome to our CloudBadging ID badge design and print software training video series. In this video, we'll focus on templates. We will discuss how to use the sample templates that come with the system, as well as how to create your own unique custom badge design using CloudBadging. So where we're going to begin is in the Templates menu. So I'm going to click on Templates in the upper right corner. And what I see initially is this. It's telling me I don't have any templates. So here I have a couple of options. I can browse the free sample templates that are included with the system, or I can create a template. Don't let the word free confuse you or concern you at all. There are no implications for cost for using the sample templates, nor is there any implication for cost, regardless of how many templates you create. So just go for it. Don't worry about that. What I'm going to do first, though, is browse the free templates. Now here in my sample system, I have a couple of sample test templates. This is not what you'll see in the regular live system of CloudBadging. In that, you'll see a half dozen examples of templates that are plausible examples of what you may want to use. Single-sided portrait, single-sided landscape, double-side portrait, double-side landscape, and a visitor badge sample are included. The idea, though, again, is you're going to look at these sample templates that come with the system, and if you see one that looks pretty darn close to what you want to do, what you need to print for your badges, well, what you can do is you can copy or clone that template. So to do that, you put your mouse over this little template thumbnail, click Use this template, and then give it a name. So here I would just maybe call it Example 1 Template. Indicate which of my data sets I'm going to put that in. It's going to be involved with my default data set. Here in this description field, what you can do is, it's just a free form field where you can type in information that will help people make decisions as far as which template they should use to print badges. Here I'll leave mine blank. I'll click on Clone Template, and then what happens is I'm then brought to my template screen. Now here we see one of our guided tours where we're going to walk you through the system and show you all the ins and outs of it. Of course, the purpose of this video is to show you all that, so we'll just skip that tour. Now, from here, you'll see that I've got exactly that template that I just created. And there's really not a whole lot on this particular template other than just a background image. So I'm going to take that off. I just clicked on it to highlight it and hit my delete key. So at this point, we have what is effectively a blank two-sided card. You'll see that on this screen, I've got a variety of things to talk about. On the far left, there's a Design tab and a Settings tab. The Design tab will show you all the different types of data that you can put onto a badge template. The Settings tab are all the specific settings that apply to this particular template. So things like the name, if you wanted to rename that, you certainly could. Just call it another name, for example. Another shot at those notes, so if you wanted to give people some help trying to figure out what they might want to choose for templates, that's your opportunity there. If you needed to change the data set that it was associated with. And then the actual card parameters here. What I can do is I can change that from the standard CR80 to a CR79, which is an adhesive sticky-backed card, or a CR80 3-up key tag. I'll leave mine as a CR80, just your standard credit card size. Now, if you do happen to have ID card stock that is outside of one of these three standard types, what you can do is here in the width and height fields, you can just simply type in whatever the actual width and height is of that card in inches, or basically you can just create your own custom template from that. So you're not really restricted to using just these three pre-canned or standardized types of cards, but in the event that you do need to have a custom size, you'll just have to put those specific parameters in. If you needed to change the number of sides, you could do that, or if you needed to change the orientation from landscape to portrait or vice versa. Or if you just decide you want to delete the template, another way you can do that is from here. Now, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the templates. I could save the changes. You'll see here in the upper right corner there's a save window. I can use previews if I have records of information, at least one record of information entered into the system. I can do a quick preview. But really what I want to do is to go back to the template screen. I'll leave and abandon those changes. And what I want to do is to create a template from scratch, just to show you that process. Another way that you can do something with one of these templates, again, is from the All Templates screen. If I put my mouse over that template thumbnail, I have a couple of options. I can edit that. That's the screen we were just at. I could make a copy of this if I wanted to. Pretty solid idea is if you have more than one badge that you need to print, but they're pretty darn close as far as what they look like. Maybe you just change a data element here, maybe a name of a company there, that sort of a thing. What you'd want to do is to design your original template, then make a copy or clone of that, and then just make some changes. I can also delete that, and that's what I'm going to do here. Okay, so then that's going to start me back at the template screen, asking me to browse my samples or create a template. So if I wanted to create a template from scratch, I could click on Create a Template, or I could click on Create Template as the submenu. Either way, it'll get you to this screen, which is where you can input the parameters of the template. Again, you need to give it a name. Tell it which data set you want it to be associated with. Indicate the type of card, the width and height, as we were just talking about. If you do have a different type of printer, or different card stock that you're printing, you just put in your custom height and width there. How many sides you have on the card. Here I've got a dual-sided card, landscape or portrait. I'll keep mine in landscape. And again, that freeform field where you can enter in some information to help people decide which template they should use. Now here what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding on different data elements onto the card. I'm just going to talk about all the different things that you can do here when you're designing a template. We'll start with what's probably the most commonly used data element. Here on the left, you'll see the data elements under the Design tab that you can add in. Text fields by far are going to be what gets used the most. So I'll click text and you'll see a little box will appear here. To be careful, if you click off of that box, it kind of disappears. It's still there. You see you can kind of move your mouse around, and the mouse cursor itself changes from your standard mouse cursor icon to that four-headed icon. But just be aware that that's an easy way to lose track of those boxes. Doesn't really hurt anything, but you'll just have to add another text box in. Now you'll see here on the left when I've clicked on an object, which all of these different data elements are objects ultimately in the system. What I can do is I have properties that I can modify, and I have conditions that I can place upon the object that's printing. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to insert some information here. So basically, when you create your record of information, pretty commonly you want to use that data when you're creating your badge. So let's just say I want to print the name, first name. Let's say I want to print the last name as well, all in the same line. Okay, well that's how I get both of those pieces of data in here. If your eyes are good, and you'll notice that there's no space in here between first name and last name. So what that means is you need to insert a space between those data elements. And to do that, here in the content/data field, you just put your cursor in between where those brackets end up being back to back. Just put your mouse there, literally hit a space bar, and then that's how you introduce a space. Another option, let's go ahead and move this down to the bottom. Another possibility, to get back to this screen so you can choose data elements, just click on the white space around the card template. But maybe what I want to do is print the name, but instead I want to print last name, comma, first name. Well, here in that case, I'll put my mouse in between those two data elements, again where those brackets are back to back, type in a comma, hit my space bar, and that'd be another way to print a name. Other things that you can do. If you wanted to, you could put static text in here as well and string that together, concatenating that static text with your variable information from your data set. So for example, maybe I want it to say name. And then you'll see there it's starting to word wrap, so what I'm going to need to do is just kind of stretch that out a little bit, unless you want it to word wrap, of course. And that's how you can string just static text, name, a label, for example, with actual variables of information. Now this is all in the same line. Let's instead assume that you wanted to print the name, the first name on one line, and then the last name below it. Well, you'll move that box over there. You can resize them. You really should try to resize them to make sure that the size of the box is only covering the amount of area that you want it to actually print on the card. And then I'll click in that white space to bring back my ability to choose a new data element. Click text again. This time I'll choose last name, put that over here. You can eyeball these things to try to line them up appropriately, but there's some other ways that you can do that. Right next to it here, you'll see there's these 4 buttons of information. This one here with the eyeball, when you click that, it puts on a grid lines, and when you move data elements or objects around the template card itself, you'll see it'll snap that object to an XY axis. So that's one good way to align items that may not necessarily work for you. So another way to do that is by clicking on an object. Over here on the left in the object settings, scroll down all the way to the bottom, and you'll see that there's position and layout coordinate values where you can put in actual values here. I'll say X value of 20, a Y value of maybe 210. How about that? So that's another way that you can do that. And so here, if I wanted to line up this next data element underneath it, I know that my value is X20, so I would just click on that, highlight my X value, change it to 20. Helps if you type it correctly. And then if I wanted to, I can modify that Y value. Maybe I want it to be a whole number to make it easy. I'll say 252. Okay, great. So those are other ways that you can align data objects. Okay, next let's talk about the images. So here we've got 2 different images that we can add into the system. One is just called image, the other is called variable image. So what's the difference? Well, the idea with the image object is things like company logos, images that don't change from one badge to the next. Those are things that you'll want to input into the system here. And what I can do is click image, and then what happens is it gives me this opportunity to either browse my file system and add in maybe my company logo that way, or you can just click and drag and drop into this area here in order to get those image files in. Or we can see here I've got a couple of background photo kinds of things that exist. If I wanted to make some sort of a change to that photo, I could. You can crop the image if you want to. Here, what I can do is click crop image, choose that portion of it that I want to use, click save image, and then that'll allow you to crop it. You can also delete these images permanently from the system by clicking delete permanently over here. I don't actually want to do either of those things. So we'll just go back here and we'll just say we want to use this image. Now you'll see that what happens is it puts on the image, and what you'll want to do, of course, is resize that image, put it in the appropriate place on the card. So that's an example of how I would put on a background logo in just a small portion of the card. What I might also be interested in doing is adding on a background logo or some sort of an image to the entirety of the background. If that's the case, what you'll want to do is not actually use any of these data elements here. You'll scroll down all the way to the bottom here on the left, and you'll see there's a background area where I can add in a background image, or I can specify a background color. If I wanted to add in an image, it's pretty same type of concept of what we were just looking at with this image. Here I click add image and I come back to that same screen. I can add an image by browsing or dragging and dropping, or I can just say use that image, and then you can see that's a way to apply that image to the entirety of that background of that side of the card. It's only on side one. Here you'll see when I have a two-sided card, the top button allows me to switch sides, and so here on side 2 I don't have that image. You could just as easily add that image again on that back side to get it on the back side of the card, but you don't have to. I'll remove that image. Now let's talk about how to put a color on the background. You just simply click on Color, click on this little checkerboard looking icon here, and then that brings up a color palette. And so let's say I wanted maybe something in the green tones. I can click here in the greens, and then I click over here, and then I can actually slide that around if I want to and just try to find the appropriate green that I'm looking for. Well, that's one way to do it. That's prone to error and kind of hit and miss. So another thing that you might want to do is if you have the hexadecimal color value, you can plug that hexadecimal color value in here. If you instead have a different type of value, oftentimes you can find converters just Googling and some sort, whatever your existing value is, RGB to hexadecimal converter, for example. You Google that, and boom, you'll find a bunch of free converters where you can punch in the value of the color that you're looking for and convert that the hexadecimal. If you decide you don't want a color on there, you can just click that X, get that off of there. Okay, so that's images and background images and colors. Next, let's talk about variable images. Again, these are going to be the types of image that are going to change from badge to badge. So maybe a headshot, a signature file, could be a fingerprint, hard to say. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, but it's something that's going to change from one badge to the next. And so when you create your record of information, you'll be supplying that image as a part of that record of information because it does change from one badge to the next. To actually print that image on the card, you click Variable Image, and you'll see that'll put this little gray box here on the card. Now what you really want to do is of course move it around to orient it where you want it. But when you resize that, I strongly recommend you grab it by a corner and resize it there. Otherwise that can kind of skew the results if you kind of pull it off from a side or maybe from the bottom. What can end up happening is the image itself will appear a little skewed when you print. So do yourself a favor and just grab from the corners there. Now what I need to do with this variable image field is I need to tell it which image from the database I want to print. Most folks only end up having a single image element in their data set, but there's no limit on that. I mean, you could very well have multiple images, fingerprints, signatures, a headshot, any number of things. Indicate the image element, the data element from the data set that you want to print here in this field. You can change the fill if you like to fit the container or fill the container. Fill the container will stretch the image to actually fill all of this defined gray area, whereas fit to container, depending upon the size of your file, the resolution and what have you, there could very well what would sort of appear to be a white space around that. So just depending upon what your needs are, you might want to choose fit or fill. Just give them both a try, see which one you like better. I'll click back on that object. Again, clicking on the side and the white space here is how you can get back to the main menu, the Design tab, to add in those different data elements. Other things to talk about that can be helpful, you can align these objects if you want. We've got these object alignments down here at the bottom as well, so you can just click things like this to kind of do a quick alignment. Variety of different things there. Let's put that image over there, and actually another object to talk about, or element on the object to talk about, is this opacity value. Best way to show you that is to hop back to the image real quick. We'll put this image on here, and let's just say this is what we want. Well, gee, that's interesting. I can't really see what's behind that now. Is that really helpful? Well, what you might want to do is change that opacity value. That'll allow you to give it kind of a washed out watermark effect. Some folks will want to do that for some additional enhanced security measures where you put on like a watermark type of effect. If that's what you're looking for, that's how you can do that, is that opacity value. I'm just going to get that off of there so it doesn't look funny while we're doing the rest of this demonstration. But that's a good way to put that sort of a watermark effect for additional enhanced security. Okay, let's see. Let's talk about barcodes, and then what we'll do is we'll switch to the other side of this card and talk about magnetic stripes and some more of these shapes here. So barcodes, if you do have a barcode that you need to print and encode, of course, what you'll want to do is click on barcode. And that puts a barcode on there for you. One thing we haven't talked about so far is that the objects on the card, you can click and spin. Hopefully nobody got dizzy there. But there is a little object handle here at the top that allows you to change the orientation on these objects if you do need to do that. And where that can be particularly useful with text data elements is if you have a portrait view on one side and a landscape view on the other. Well, that's how you can have your card set as, say, a landscape for front to back, but you can effectively print in portrait, and I'll show you what I mean by that here in just a moment. But getting back to the barcode, let's click on that barcode. You'll see here we've got a variety of barcode formats. Another thing to point out here too is that we do support QR codes. So if you're interested in having a QR code instead of a barcode, what you do is you add on a barcode and then change the format to QR code. You can resize these just like all the other data elements, and again you can spin those around if that's necessary. Okay, so we'll put this over here in the corner, and typically, of course, when you have a barcode or a QR code, you want to encode some sort of data in there, right? So what you can do is over here on the left, you go in and choose the variable that you want to encode in there. If you wanted to encode, say, the ID number here in this QR code, well, that's one way to do that. More commonly, though, with QR codes in particular, you want to get somebody out to your website. And in that case, you can just type in static content, and when somebody uses a QR reader to read that QR code, well, that's exactly where it's going to go. It's going to go out to whatever you type in there. Okay, so let's go to side 2. And again, what I can do here is I can click on this top object to switch sides. Now I'm looking at the back of the card. So let's talk about magnetic stripes. If I do have a mag stripe, I'll just click mag stripe. And that'll put a mag stripe element on the back of the card, side 2. Now, of course, typically with mag stripes, you want to encode data in them. One thing that's important to note here at this point is that you do need to have a printer that has a mag stripe encoder built into it. CloudBadging, just because you're designing a mag stripe and putting some data in it here on the application window, that's not going to do anything unless you actually have a printer with a magnetic stripe encoder in it, so keep that in mind. But here you'll see that if you do have custom sentinels that you need in order to delineate between multiple pieces of data on any given track, you can go into your printer setup area to indicate those. We'll talk about this printer setup in a subsequent recording in this series when we talk about printing. But otherwise, the data itself that you want to incorporate into these tracks, if you want to put in a variable from the data set into any one of those tracks, track 1, 2, or 3, you can do that. If you wanted to just put in static information, you could type that in as well, whatever is appropriate for your needs. Okay, so that's mag stripes. I'm going to go ahead and take that off, so it won't cover up what I really want to show here on side 2, which is getting back to that text changing of the orientation there, as well as putting on some of these shapes. So here on side 2, it's not uncommon for folks to have some sort of a if found, call me message, right? So if I have if found, please call me at my number, of course you'd want to put in something, more real than that. Point is, though, is if you have a need on side 2 and you have, say, a landscape orientation, or the reverse, if you have a portrait on side 1 and you want it landscape on side 2, what you could do is you could just change that such that it will look the way you want it to. So that's a little hint and trick for you there. Let's talk about talk about shapes, actually. Where I was going with the multiple was having multiple things layered on top of each other. I'll show you that here as well in conjunction with this object as well. So let's put a line on first. This is pretty much what it sounds like. It's going to be a line. Here I can resize it if I want to. I can also change the color of that line. Maybe I want it to be red. Maybe I want that line to be a little bit thicker, so I'll put 20 in there. Okay, great. Again, you can rotate these things too, so if you want it horizontal, vertical, whatever, you can do that. Okay, so that's a line. Pretty much you're going to draw a line on there if you need a line on your card. Circle. Usually what you're going to do with a circle, I mean, you might very well need to put a circle object on your card. More often, though, for folks with smart cards, there's an actual data chip on there. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that that area doesn't get printed on. So what you'd want to do is to remove the background color and then scroll down, and there's this non-printable checkbox down here. So if this is where my smart card data chip is, and I want to make darn sure that my direct-to-card printer doesn't strike that chip, breaking it, I would then denote this as a non-printable area, and that's the end of it. You might use the circle for that. You might also use the square for that. Is there any real difference? Well, one's a circle, one's a square. Other than that, there's no difference. Last thing here is the square. Again, you may want to denote something as a non-printable area. You may also want to try to create a frame of some sort around an image. So let's say that's what I wanted to do. Let's say I've got my frame here. Let's get that line off. So I want a frame. I would change my background color to be clear. I would change my border color to be whatever color I wanted that frame to be. I would then change the width to be appropriate. So here's my frame. And then maybe I want to put an image in there. So I'll just put that variable image in there, resize it as appropriate. And of course, as you can see, there's a little white space there. So I would just spend some time getting that just exactly perfect. I'm not going to do that on this recording. So that's just a waste. But again, you would just put in the data element that you need to print there. That's a way to create a frame just using that square object. Another use for the square, that's kind of the same thing as the line, but it's just another way to draw kind of a banner across the top, for example. Okay, let's see. That covers all of those different data elements. What I might want to do next after having created my card is save that, and then I might want to do a preview. So if I click preview, I'll see both my sides of my card previewed for me. I can see that's what it looks like, and maybe I'm happy with that, maybe I'm not. Maybe I realized that I wanted to come back here and talk about how to layer different objects. Well, let's do that. So let's put in an image. We'll grab our image. We'll resize that just a little bit, so this will make a little more sense. So there's that, and then let's say that I want to have some text print over that, and maybe I just have some static text as an example. Okay, so here I see that it just layers it on there. If for some reason, though, I wanted, say, this object to cover my text, what I could do is put my mouse over this arrange, and I could say bring to front, and then you'll see it covers that. More often you're going to want the reverse, something like text to cover an object, and in that case you would bring that to the front. So that's just a way that you can layer that data. Bring to front, bring forward, send backward, or send to back is that last option there. Let's see. In that case, I would save those changes, click preview, and again, I can cycle through and see what's going on there with my my cards. Now, the last feature to discuss here is for folks that have two-sided cards. that are the exact same information on both sides of the card, most software applications force you to actually design both sides of the card. So it can be tedious, and you're not necessarily going to have everything exactly the same from front to back. But we kind of give you a shortcut here, where the last button on this screen is this clone all to back. So if I want to have both sides of the card look the same, the front to back, I would say clone those to the back, and now when I switch to card sides, you'll see that it's going to do exactly that. It's going to give me a front to back look. Up here, finally, is this red light, green light sort of a thing between active and draft. The idea here is that if you want to set a template to be active, meaning it should be used in live production mode, just click on green, and that indicates that it's active. If you want to send a visual cue to other folks in the system that a template is under construction or perhaps being modified, you would put that back in draft status. That's the whole purpose to that red light, green light. Save those changes, and then one thing that sometimes trips people up is the menus are gone, right? You can't click on dashboard or records or whatever from here. Draw your eyes over here to the upper left corner. There's a back to templates. I'll click that, and that's how I can get back to the template screen. And with that, I'd like to thank you for watching our video on templates. You can view more cloud badging training videos from our CloudBadging ID badge design and print software training video series to learn how to maximize your use of this ID card printing software. Thank you.